This program has been approved for one IDCEC CEU. To receive credit for this program, please submit your full name, IDCEC number, program class code, and your summary essay to ceu@iida.org. The program class code is located alongside the title of this program on the IIDA Academy page. For a certificate of completion to use toward another certifying body, please submit the same information to ceu@iida.org. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cheryl Durst. I'm the Executive Vice President and CEO of IIDA, the International Interior Design Association, and it is absolutely my honor and pleasure to welcome you this afternoon to this episode 1, season 4 of our webinar series, Collective Design. And Collective Design is celebrating a bit of an anniversary. This series started for IIDA as a response to when we all shut down, actually about 3 years ago this week. We all had different thoughts in our heads, and we were just thinking about surviving. Now we are in thriving mode. Collective Design started as a response to us all being at home, trying to work in and through a pandemic. We are now in thriving mode, and I'm so excited today for today's program, Future Female, Small and Mighty. I am incredibly honored to have joining us today Anishka Clarke, who is the founder and interior design director of her own firm, Ishka Designs, Sarah Kuchar-Parkinson, the owner and creative director of Kuchar here in Chicago, and Betsy Vohs, founder and CEO of Studio BV in Minneapolis. Good afternoon, my friends. How are you?
Fantastic.
Great, great. So much I want to talk to you three about your expertise, your courage and bravery in starting your own firms when you started them, and what life is like in the world of design when you're managing your own firm. So how about if we get started with each of you telling us a little bit about your firm size, and how you came to found your firm. Anishka, I'm kind of looking right at you. Would you mind starting us off?
Sure. My name is Anishka Clarke. My company is called Ishka Designs. It's co-founded by myself and my partner, Naya Bascom, back in 2007. Actually, a year before I finished school, design school.
Wow.
And I think I kind of always knew that I would need to go out on my own. So that was kind of the impetus. But our firm is small and mighty, just like the title. There are 4 of us total. We've worked all over the world, basically, on projects. Right now, the majority of our projects are stateside. And we do residential mostly, but we work in commercial, and we've done some healthcare stuff. So it's kind of for a firm our size, we tend to take on projects that help to push us forward and challenge us mentally, creatively, and everything else, physically, I suppose. And that's pretty much it for the firm in terms of just a general overview.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And I want to come back to that, starting a firm before you're even out of design school. We're going to circle back to that. But let's keep moving with kind of the origin story. Sarah, how about you talk about give us your origin story?
Sure. So I started Kuchar 7 years ago after working 11 years for a large architecture firm. So I kind of got the experience in, got some knowledge in, and then went out on my own. I know we'll probably get into some of the reasons for it. I had a lot of reasons for it. Never had thought about it until that kind of point, and then it really felt right in my career and the challenge I needed. So it really ended up being, I think, exactly what I needed. At the moment, we're nine people, all female, mostly designers, but we do have a procurement team as well. And we really focus on trying to get clients who are looking for really, really creative, highly creative solutions, or to stand out against their competition, or stand out in general. So we don't really focus on a market, but work in several. So we do workplace, showroom, retail, restaurant, multifamily, some residential. So not really focusing on market, more so trying to find the right client fit to help us explore our creativity.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. And Betsy.
Hi. Well, I could just cross out Sarah and put Betsy because it's a very similar background, similar timeline. I worked at a very large firm for almost a decade. And in 2015, about 7.5 years ago, left to start my own firm. And we can get into why, but we're 15 people. We're about 70% women. That's been a goal of mine to diversify by adding more males to the practice, because we were at one point for several years only female. And we do a lot of the work, same work that Sarah does. We do mostly commercial work. We do some residential, but only for commercial clients that would ask us to do that. We do hospitality, retail, just a lot of variety. I think that keeps us really engaged. And we're a mix of interior designers and architects. So we do kind of everything from architecture to brand design. So we try to do a full service kind of a total design experience. And we are always looking for what's the match in our client, and not just, I always think we don't just take every project. We want everything to be a partnership. We want everything to sort of feed us and also grow that client. So I think that's a privilege you get when you have a small business. And that's like one of my favorite things is that curation of our everyday, which is our experiences in the design work.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into, since all three of you touched on it, let's dive into the why. Why did you start your own firm? Anyone who wants to jump in with that one?
I will say for me, it was kind of a crossroads of personal and professional.
Okay.
Not, kind of going through some things personally, not really liking where I was at professionally, feeling like I was swimming upstream, I think a little. And I've always been of the type of like, here's what I want. How do I go get it, accomplish it? And it was frustrating when I was doing those things and making those steps, and I wasn't getting what I thought I was deserving or what I wanted. And so I was just needed life change. I actually tried out for Soul Cycle as part of that life change and realized I am not cut out to run a fitness class. So check that off the list. And instead, a friend recommended start your own firm and do your own way. And that just really resonated me in that moment. And ever since then, I was just focused on it. And I actually worked on mine for about 1.5 years in the background before I really, really thoughtfully put it together before I made the jump.
Yeah. Betsy or Anishka, what's your why?
I would say it was always in my brain since undergrad. I was always like, ooh, I would love to do that, because to me, it was all access instead of partial access. So to me, everything was always about, I want all the doors as open as I can get them. So for me, it was about, I don't know, it was a myriad of things. I felt it wasn't growing. And to me, back then I was in my middle 30s and I thought, I cannot be done learning now. Because this can't be enough. And I felt like, how do I keep growing? How do I keep, touching design? Because to me, my philosophy, and I think this is really clear in my practice, is the business is a means to do design work. It is not the prime. It is the supporting mechanism that allows us to do design work. Design is my true passion. I love it. And so the business of architecture at larger firms is the business first. Architecture sometimes becomes a secondary manifest of what the business is. And for me, I wanted to flip it. I love the work. I love the work if it's one person firm or, a larger firm. So for me, it was really trying to drive my firm and creating an opportunity for people who are really senior and kind of experienced to get still to do the work and to be, in love and growing with that work and with clients instead of just selling. Because I felt like selling that's a part of what we do, but it isn't really. For me, it didn't feed my soul. And it was that was step 1 of 100 steps. And we can't just sell and walk away. We need to sell and then kind of do that work. So to me, it was very similar. But it was also, I wanted a creative challenge. I think that is always fulfilling. And it definitely has been, but it has been full of joy too. And I wanted a life that was more full of happiness and less about a search for, the pressure of the big firm money. Money was always like, because I was a senior leader and responsible for P&L and all that stuff. And that's really important, but it doesn't feed my soul. So I wanted to create a practice where that wasn't the driver every day. It was something different.
Wow. Wow. Anishka, what about you? What was your why?
My path is a bit different. I come from the world of finance, and I just wasn't feeling fulfilled for a very, very long time. And it's funny, I was exploring all the different avenues that are available to you in finance, thinking that I was just in the wrong particular lane. And meanwhile, prior, like say leading up to that, I've always been like a modern dancer, just always had my foot in the creative door. And I had started working on, small like decorating projects or whatever you want to call it with friends and family or whatever. And I realized at one point that this was the thing that was actually very exciting to me. Like I would, wake up in the middle of the night thinking about these little small projects and wondering, I'm just really excited, and nothing in finance was driving me like that. I was pretty good in finance, but I just was not like passionate about it. And I had a conversation with a friend, and I don't know, a light bulb just went off. And within a month, I'd quit my finance job and gone straight into design school, because I felt like I really needed the credentials. And I also needed to justify whether or not I had the talent to do this. And so this going through the school process gave me that confidence that, yeah, I think I am actually good at this. But then, and funnily enough, some of my classmates recognized this. And so I actually started getting one of my classmates recommended me to her father. He was a developer and he wanted some help with some decor stuff. So she recommended me over herself, which I thought was really crazy. And, it just kind of was this like ongoing thing where it was just, stuff was just coming to me. And so I decided that, why not just kind of start the business before school was over, just to kind of like legitimize what was happening. And as school ended, literally almost that same week, we got our first major renovation project in Brooklyn, and it kind of just continued from there. So again, it was just more about being in the place that I was meant to be in and understanding what that is, and then going for it and taking every chance. Because I also knew I couldn't tell any of the people that I thought would kind of discourage me from making such a change. And funnily enough, there was actually no one in my circle, inner and outer, that discouraged me. They all were just like, yeah, that sounds like just about right. Yeah, you should be doing that. So here I am.
That's great. The three of you, in your responses to that question, used, Betsy, you used the words joy and happiness and satisfaction. Sarah, you talked about the timing in your life. You were searching for something at that point in your life. Anishka, you talked about, kind of this coincidence, this convergence of your background in finance and then being in design school and a sense of fulfillment, all incredible reasons for kind of taking this leap, but often not terms that are used when people are starting their own business, right? There's a fair amount of courage and bravery and confidence and competence required to start your own business. Who came with you on your journey when you started your firms? Who did you start your firms with? With former coworkers, with folks that you went to school with? Who did you start your firm with? Sarah, can I start you with that question? Start with you with that question?
Yeah.
Who came with you on that journey?
Do you mean actually like working in the studio or just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your employee number one.
Yeah, I actually got busy. I was busy right away. Like I announced it, and then I had people reaching out and kind of had that holy crap moment. Like, this is great, but how do I do this? And I need help. And I think I was talking to my friend Mel perhaps about this. I was put in touch with a friend her name is Sabrine. She's the first person to work with me. She had recently actually gone on maternity leave and wasn't ready to come back full time to the big business and was kind of looking for that in between. And I was also looking for part-time because I was terrified to take on, you know, I didn't know how to hire. I had no idea how to like hire and run an employee. So we met for coffee and she started working for me right away. And it was actually at the beginning, I had a few new moms or just moms who were not quite ready for the full-time work, working part-time with me for, I think like the first 2 years, which was great because it worked well for me and it worked really well for them.
Great. Betsy or Anishka, who came with you as employee number one, or who was your first employee other than yourself?
Yeah, I was very quiet when starting my business. So really hardly anyone knew. My business manager, who had been with me for almost a decade at my corporate firm, was really behind the scenes. She had Bunk on a maternity leave and really helped me, and that still works with me. We've been together for like almost 20 years now. Helped me set this up, and because running a business is not my strength. So she provided that strength, Rebecca. And then shortly after I left, my now business partner, Courtney, was at my previous firm and she came. But really, I jumped solo and then started collecting my stars because that was the only way to make it successful for me to leave where I was.
Yeah. And then for the three of you, what do you wish that more firms, more studios knew about women working in design, or what do you wish someone had told you about this journey that you're on with your own firm? So you've got two options for a question there.
I'm going to go with the
Go ahead.
stereotyping.
Go ahead, Sarah.
But I don't know if this is what you're asking for, but
Yeah.
I feel like we are kind of inherently open to being sensitive as women, or, you know, we're not afraid of it. And I think, you know, those gender roles are changing a lot as people are raising their kids differently, but I think that we're able to be sensitive with people, or caring with, you know, who's going to be living in our spaces or using our spaces and our design and working with clients. And I think that just makes us like caregivers for these projects that we're doing, that we're thinking about the people that are going to use the spaces. And I think that makes women very strong in design, and that we kind of have that, we're not afraid of that sensitivity, and we bring that to our clients and our projects, I think, inherently. I think it creates really warm, really thoughtful, really unique, personable like spaces. And I again, stereotyping a bit, but I do feel like that is an advantage that women have and bring to design.
Yeah. I mean, we can be a bit genderist in that. That's okay. Betsy or Anishka?
The question was, what would I have known along the way to help me start a practice? Is
Or
that the question? Cheryl?
what do you wish someone had told you about starting a practice, or what do you wish that more people knew about women in design?
Oh. That we're the best multitaskers ever made. Sorry, it's just in the DNA. I mean, one thing is not us. We are not defined by one thing. And I do think that sometimes success, you're so good at one thing, sometimes it becomes your thing when it isn't your thing. Does that make sense? It's like women are defined by what someone sees as their greatest skill when they have 10 greatest skills.
Yeah.
And I think that I just wish that was a little bit more rounded out and people could open up the filter, because I do believe that it's a multiplicity of things, and that's our way. And that's why I think design is such a natural for women to come to, because design is we're not just solving something, we are creating new things and pathways, and the process is as much of a, you know, a key indicator of success as the outcome. So I think women are so good at that. And I think that as you're going through your career, just make sure you're defining what is your strength, and not letting others think, oh, it's the one thing that I can't do, so that's their strength. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Anishka's nodding. I think she wants to jump in.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think also women are just in the background of everything, and have always been in the background of everything. So we're so capable and so competent, and we've been doing the work for many people from behind the scenes. So like, why is it not a no-brainer that we're just like the powerhouse and the people that should be running these organizations or leading them or whatever, you know, just like, we have been doing it forever, and we just need the limelight, and we need that spotlight on us now.
I love that, Anishka. I'm going to hashtag that as, you know, we've been doing the work, right? All along. Let's talk a little bit about this moment now, as we're trying to emerge from the pandemic, right? With a greater attention placed on health, well-being, sustainability, equity, diversity, and inclusion. I would love for the three of you to talk a bit about what you're doing within your firms or with your clients, perhaps to prioritize employee health and well-being, and if there are special things that you're doing with a nod to diversity and equity and inclusion. If you all can share some of those initiatives with us and with the audience, that would be fantastic.
I can start. I will start.
ahead.
So I think, well, first of all, I think as a leader of any organization, you have to try to walk that walk. You're being seen. And I think even in the pandemic, I think for sure, I think I was on a panel with you, Cheryl. We talked about leadership and how that was changing during the pandemic. I do think things have shifted. I think the transparency of leadership has to become about how do you live your life and how are you being seen by your team. So if wellness is important to me, to the firm, how does it show up in my life? And how do I make it show up for my team? So we used to do like gym memberships, all this stuff. Well, you know what? I think we've all working differently. We're in permanent hybrid. So going to a gym isn't necessarily the solution for everybody anymore. So we actually stole this from a client. I love stealing good ideas. We had a PR client and they did Wellness Your Way. And I was like, talk to me about that. And so I literally stole it. We basically give folks $1,000 cash a year. They can do whatever they want with it, but it has to make them happy. It can't be for bills. It can't be for daycare. It has to be for you, but it could be a new camera. It could be a plane ticket. I don't care. It could be a cooking class, whatever. But I feel like wellness and happiness and joy needs to be prioritized. And I think when you are, running your family, doing a job, it never becomes the priority. So I wanted to make something a priority and say, this is for you, you decide. I think that people loved it. I mean, I had one of my senior designers was like, I haven't had a massage in 8 years, Betsy. I love this. And that is a luxury that's back in her life because we can do this. And it's just the little things, right? It just says that that's important. I would say so. Making sure people take the time off. They do that. I take the time off. I don't work. I took 6 weeks off last summer, and I didn't work. And my team was like, how will we be Zooming you? And I said, well, we're not Zooming me. I'm on vacation. I'm not working remote. I don't want you to work remote. I'm not working remote. Right. So I do think, I always think that, if you're not going to take vacation, how can you sort of encourage others to do that? So I would say trying to be a leader that's trying to do what you think your values are and living them out so people can see that and being transparent. And for diversity and equity, we have a whole pro bono practice and we work really hard on that. And that is about us showing up in community in ways that satisfy our souls, but also try to level up and say, okay, are we really trying to do the best we can? So that has been a really kind of the best thing about my practice is we get to help people in the community, achieve design solutions that weren't even possible because design is, unfortunately for folks that oftentimes don't have access, don't have resources, and really just, I think there isn't the light on what that should be for not-for-profits, people in the community, and then also people affected by social, unrest and those pieces. So
yeah, I love that. Wellness Your Way. That's fantastic, Betsy. And I know during that 6 weeks, I think I was following you on Instagram. I think we reached out to you to even be on a panel or do something. And the answer was like, nope, I cannot do it. I'm on my time right now. So that's fantastic. Anishka or Sarah, response to what you all are doing in your firms.
Okay, I think internally, we've just been trying to make the office space feel extremely zen and calm and relaxing and finding ways for it to also be extremely healthy. We have like a gazillion plants that we have to take care of. And, it rotates who has to water them and is responsible for them. But also, I think, we have a very kind of natural, holistic way of being just in general, how we eat, exercise, whatever. So these things come up in conversation all the time in the office, and we're not telling you what to do, but we're sharing, and we're always sharing. And I feel like we've been attracting like minds into the office as a result. So we're all learning from each other, and everybody's kind of on a very that kind of like I don't know what to say, but just a very natural and organic way of life, and we also take that to our clients, right? We, in part of our intake process and just throughout the whole design process, we're always trying to encourage clients to think about the healthy way of living and the best approach to doing these things, so that they can enjoy their space longer, and they can be happier in their spaces. Talk about no TV in the bedrooms. It's just like random little things that we personalize, that we bring to the table with them. So, and then, I mean, at the end of the day, we're like, of the 4 of us in the office, 3 of us are women. So I don't know if that's called diversity, but but we definitely look for where we've been, we want to grow the firm a little bit more, and we've been looking for people who wouldn't necessarily have gotten the nod initially, whether it's a cultural difference, a language difference, or something like that. So we're really kind of supportive for the minority community, and similarly, even in our the vendors or fabricators that we choose to work with, the contractors. We have a female contractor, GC, that we've been working with on several projects now, and it's just been kind of very rewarding to have like this kind of extension into but giving opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. And being mindful of the fact that, it's not just your office that is diverse, but the folks that you're working with, aligned with, on teams with, collaborating with. That's fantastic. Sarah, what about your team?
So I started a wellness program last year, and was kind of thinking of all the, what can I do to help everybody kind of on that personal level. And so we kind of broke it down into 4 topics. So it's, we do 1 a quarter. So it's mental wellness, nutritional wellness, physical wellness, and financial wellness. And then we focus on 1 each quarter. And I basically try to just find either something that lasts the quarter, or just like some events during the quarter that are focused on that particular wellness. So like for the physical wellness, we did a step challenge, and the winners got like, so the ultimate winner got a oh gosh, what's the at-home spin bike that I cannot.
Peloton.
Peloton, yeah. Peloton, and like, some yoga gear and stuff like that. And we had a financial advisor come in during the financial wellness, and just trying to basically a way for me to kind of like always not go too long before having some sort of wellness activity in the office. So I'm always kind of like a quarter ahead, looking at what can we do to bring somebody in, whether it's a cooking class, for nutritional. This quarter for mental wellness, we we all did the Myers-Briggs test to find more about ourselves, and then also kind of how to work with each other. So it's kind of a self-guided way of kind of, you can pair yourself up with a team member and see how you work with them, and what your differences might be, and just trying to learn more about ourselves. So it's been going well, I think, so far, and it's fun to kind of think of different activities to just help better us in a way that's not work and design related, which is also refreshing.
Right. What I love about how the 3 of you responded to that question is it's not a standardized corporate practice. It's very personal, very bespoke, very unique to each of your firms and to each of your teams. It feels very intentional, very authentic, and very real. And again, contributing to the fact that, the 3 of you have extraordinary workplaces. You've got happy, healthy, satisfied employees.
So we say
exactly. Let's talk a little bit about some of the work that you all are doing. Is there a specific project that you're currently working on that you think is particularly emblematic or indicative of who you are as a firm and the impact that you hope to make?
I can start. I
Yeah.
will start.
Yeah.
I would say our work is so diverse, and that's probably my favorite thing about actually having a business is that I get to work on projects that are really diverse versus some firms that are specialists, right? Or your career grows into specialty, which is really great. And people need that. I always say we're design generalists. We're as curious as your project, and I think that, being new to something actually provides better solutions sometimes because you're asking all the questions because you don't presume to know any of the answers. So I would say that that's our work is really diverse in that way. I would say the thing that makes, I think, my team the most proud and our sort of work for joy is really our pro bono practice. And we just finished right before the holidays. We actually worked with Dress for Success in the Twin Cities, and they came to us about a year and a half ago and said, we lost all of our retail spaces in COVID. We want to get an RV and make it basically a mobile boutique. Would you ever do this with us? And I said, absolutely. Why? Who's ever going to ask me to design an RV? No one. So I said, yes. And then we worked with we have such great friends in the Twin Cities and vendor partners, and we collectively all pro bono. Everything in that thing was pro bono, from the contractor to everything you saw, from every material, every light, our services. And it's been such a work of joy and such an amazing thing. I mean, it's a really hard challenge to design an RV, like all the custom millwork, the tile. We did tile mosaic floors, and I remember the contractor saying, like, it has to drive, like that's so heavy, like just rethinking and learning like how to do something that is going to be actually mobile. So that is very indicative, I think, of the firm. We are, really excited to run towards a challenge we've never done, especially in the spirit of kind of serving a community and then, bringing design excellence to people, who don't have access. Like that to me is the best thing we do.
That's great. That's fantastic. Anybody else?
I'll say we're in the thick
Yeah.
of the Neocon showroom craze.
Right. It's that time.
Yeah, being in Chicago, it's something that we tend to be involved in every year. And this year is kind of special because everybody in the office is working on a showroom. I try to mix up the team so that you don't have, nothing looks similar, but everybody's touching something. So it'll be really exciting for our team when Neocon rolls around. And those projects are just really cool for us because it's obviously, it's a product we look at, it's a product our peers look at. It's working with people who we are their clients. And I think, for us, we get to really kind of push design and push creativity, and work with them even on some product design, and how they represent their product and how do they stand apart from the showroom next to them or the people that they're competing against. And so it's I think a really great exercise for us to always kind of push and explore our creativity and these kind of short-term quote unquote projects.
Yeah, that's great. Anishka, is there a project you want to share?
Yeah, actually, we just completed a cultural arts academy in Brooklyn last year, and it's called IIDA, and it's an African cultural arts academy. And it was, I think it's like one of our favorite projects just because of how much gratitude and how much like when they had like the ribbon cutting ceremony, it just felt so like emotional to actually have been a part of the process of this thing. And it's a 30-year-old company that's never really had its own headquarters really. And so they finally, have this like this headquarters that they moved into, and they tapped us as a minority firm to be the designers, to be the designers for the projects. And then we in turn tapped, minority general contractor for the installation. If we could have done the whole thing that way, we would have, but we weren't able to. But at the end of the day, we were able to source things from, the African continent, and just like, it really, it allowed us to dig into ourselves more and not just take things from like a literal or an expected way, but also to take it from like an interpretation, a modern interpretation of what this should be.
Yeah.
It's a academy for children from I think ages 3 maybe upwards to like 18, 19, and it was definitely an effort that allowed us to really like give a community of people who would normally walk into like these very institutional,
Mhm.
very concrete, you know, school systems, after school programs that are just like, I don't know, dreary and sad, and really give them an elevated experience,
Yeah.
a space that they wouldn't expect. And then they could look at and be like, wow. And so that was what we thought we were doing. And then when they started interviewing the kids and the parents, and like the tears of joy, and like, I mean, this is like some HDTV kind of like breakdown mental thing. And it was like this emotional experience that we really tapped into and connected with, not just, you know, the board members that we worked with, but with
Right.
also the end users.
Yeah.
And the joy and the experience that we were able to get from this project. We've never really experienced that on any other project before.
Oh.
So it was definitely one of the most rewarding projects we've ever done.
That sounds fantastic. Well, congratulations on that. We're going to move into kind of the audience question mode, and I've got a number of people who are asking the three of you, what advice would you give? What kind of practical advice would you give to anyone who is starting their own firm?
I can start.
Yeah.
I think contracts and processes are very important, right? I think it's very necessary to make sure that you are covered in terms of like just even basic expectations from both the client and yourself. And so getting your hands on, you know, a contract, whether it's a boilerplate contract to start with, and then you start evolving that contract over time, you know, get a lawyer, maybe like, I don't know, but get somebody to help you with it to kind of at least put it together in the initial get-go, because you just don't want to be caught out there so early in the startup process. You know, you will make mistakes. You're going to make a ton of mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes. So, but you don't want to be like, you know, in a very compromising position as a result of that. So you kind of want to put yourself in a better framework, and then just having like processes for things, like a systematic way of doing things. And that is, then it becomes easier to transfer that to employees and new employees and so on and so forth. So, you know, you're kind of building the practice and with this process and this system in place.
Great advice, Anishka. Betsy, Sarah, any advice for some of the listeners who are thinking about starting their own firms?
I would say, sorry, Sarah. I would just say reach out to someone who, if you know, or could get introduced to someone who has started a business. I think that would be good. I definitely leaned on a few people that had taken a leap and, you know, talked to their lawyers, talk to people just to understand, like, you know, there are, you know, when you run a business, it's a business, and you are, as Anishka said, like, you are responsible. And also, I would think I wrote a business plan. You know, just lay out, get your brain, kind of put it out on paper. I do think that helps you start to understand and see it. It's going to evolve. It's very organic, the process of starting a business, but having goals, I would say my goals when I started the business plan, when I left, and today are the exact same. And I think that helps guide me every day. My goals were to do transformative work and to be happy. And those are still the two reasons I get up every single day, are to be happy and to do transformative work. I haven't changed my priorities. Those are our priorities. And we make decisions around that. And it was like, I guess if you're going to do this business, because it's going to take a lot from you, you better always have those principles of why you're doing this. And they need to be authentic to you, because you have to come back to them. So if you don't know what those are, find them and then build from there.
That's great.
And I think building on authenticity, and this is going to sound so cheesy, but like trusting your gut and like trusting in your vision, it's like such common advice, but I have always thought like people are going to give you a lot of advice, and it's going to be coming usually from a good spot. It's going to come from your family and your friends and your employees and other people, you know, who run businesses. And it'll sometimes make you feel, I think, at least myself, self-conscious of like, you know, maybe I'm not doing things right, or should I be doing things the way someone else is telling me to do them? But you ultimately know what your vision is, you know, your business, and whatever you feel like is right is what you should go with, because you know your business more than anybody else. And they're coming from a different position. And I feel like if you always listen to your gut, you listen to focus on your vision, you're going to make the best decision for it. And it might go wrong, but at least you did the thing that you thought was right and not what someone was telling you to do. Because when that goes wrong, it is the worst feeling.
Yeah.
I'll also say just a simple bit of advice. When I left, I had a couple projects and a website up. And so when I left, there was kind of something for people to go to and see what I was kind of up to. And I think that helped me get a lot of business from the start, because they saw there was a small restaurant and a small residence. And I was like getting people reaching out like, oh, you do this, I'm gonna connect you to so-and-so who needs a designer. And so they had a place to kind of see what I was doing. And I think that really helped me in the beginning. So I would give that advice,
Oh, that's
what
great.
worked for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. As each of you, as your business has grown, have you seen your role change and evolve?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I mean, I went into this thinking I'm going to design a certain way, and I'm doing this because I want to design my way, and I'm going to be designing everything. And it was, be me as the lead designing. And I think I probably design the least now. I'm running a business, and I do like that. I actually very much enjoyed running a business and using a different part of my brain and kind of being more of a creative editor than the one drawing on the paper. And I've really enjoyed watching my design team take on that role and seeing them grow in their careers, and instead of me kind of hogging that. But yeah, I started in design, and now I'm doing more business work, but for me, I enjoy it. So I like the change.
Betsy or Anishka, have you seen your roles evolve as your business has grown, as your firm has gotten older?
I think that just as an employer, I guess it's similar to what Sarah is saying, but whereas I'm still like holding on to the design part. But still, no, the whole concept of like taking what you have in your head and been doing for the longest while, and like, being able to have people who understand how to do that and understand how you want things to be done. And I guess maybe the way that you have to delegate, I guess maybe the right word to use. But yeah, prior when the firm was half the size, there was no delegation of anything. So now it's like, yeah, you do this, you do that, whatever. But it's just, and then also just kind of now, not just delegation, but also like really understanding who is good at what and what are their strengths. And then, so even more so reading people and then figuring out how to play into that and to get the best out of them and make them still be happy and comfortable to be doing that every day. And so it's been, I think, the evolution of that side of the business and myself it's interesting to watch and see.
Okay, perfect. Betsy, did you have anything you want to jump in with add?
To say I've learned a lot, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to start a business. So I would say I'm constantly learning. The first few years, I leaned away from like the business part of the business and just ran towards the work. And then there was kind of like a maturation of me as a leader, and was like, okay, come on, you got to like get your head around this. I remember my accountant scolding me. He'd only talked to me one time. It was time for taxes. He's like, what's going on? Like, we need to have a relationship here. So, because I had employees, he's like, you need to come to some reconciliation. I think I have. That was a good crossover moment. Like, because I was so focused on the design stuff, not focusing on the business. And now I think I'm in better harmony with that. I care for both, and I try to manage both with equal intention and sort of time. Does that make sense? But at the beginning I didn't. And I think that was a growth moment for me.
Yeah. How, here's a question about hiring and in attracting and retaining great talent. And I think regardless of size, firms have this question. But with each of you, for firm size, are you intentionally staying small? Or are you intentionally thinking about a good size, perfect size for you all to do what you need to do? And then how do you think about the talent that you're attracting to kind of maintain the cultures that you've created?
I'm going to jump in first.
Yeah.
I think this is the most important question you've asked us today, because for me, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and we will not get big. We are basically in our sweet spot. Because there is, for me, a Venn diagram of it, like I said, happiness and transformative work. And when we get too big, we can't do it because it's just, I can't prioritize what I want to. And that prioritization means saying no to clients that aren't a good fit. It means focusing on a section of our work that's pro bono and free. All the things that bring me joy, I need to keep the firm in this box, if you will, size wise, because then no decision is about resources. It's about values. But when you get bigger, you have to chase, to me, I call it chasing salaries, but you have to make compromises to pay salaries for growth. And I just don't want to make compromises. I feel like this is the reason I did this, was to create something that I really loved. I love my team. I think we bring so much value to clients. I think we're a really good size, within 2 or 3 people. And this is where we will intentionally stay.
Right.
And I'm not trying to sell this firm. I'm trying to lean deeper into this firm. Like, this will be my last job. I love this job. And I love that we are something different. There's not a project that's too small or too big for us to work on. And if it is too big, then we're not the kind of firm to work on that project. So for me, and I think happiness lies there. And I think the people that are attracted to this practice also want that. They want access. They want all the good stuff. They don't want to work weekends. Like, they want all the good stuff. And I feel like we pay fair. We have great benefits. We are trying to be the firm I want this to be. And I think that comes with balance and resources and joy and validation and kind of just priorities and focus. And I feel like I can do that at this size. And if I get bigger, no.
That's great. That's great. Sarah or Anishka, any thoughts about maintaining size and finding talent? Which seem contradictory, but right? Certain types of folks are built for working on small collaborative teams.
Very true.
Yeah.
I think culture is very important. You mentioned that, and I think that you could hire anybody, but within reason. But at the end of the day, you want that person that comes in to be the right fit. And I mean, right now we have a beautiful team. I mean, I think it's like, it's perfect. It's like family, and we kind of, we want it when the firm grows a little bit more, which I think it does need to grow a little bit more, and not significant, just like Betsy says, keeping it within this nice little, this perfect size. They have to fit into this family really well. So, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best design talent to ever, walk the face of the earth. It's just somebody who will fit right in and can walk alongside myself, walk alongside Naya, who is a completely different personality from me, and just be able to still like function well and perform and give us what we are expecting and then some, so culture is important.
Perfect. Sarah, any thoughts?
My goal is kind of a 15 to 20 person firm. And I think for a lot of reasons why Betsy is there. I've actually heard from 2 owners who have like the 70 to 90 person firm. They dream of the days when they were in that 15 to 20. They both said, and they're 2 different conversations of people that don't even know each other, said that like those were the glory days, that like they kind of had to grow because they were bursting, and like you'd be dumb not to, was their their story. But they loved the feeling of the firm at that size, and it kind of reinforced that size that I aim to grow towards. I think culture, a couple of things I do is I involve my team in our hiring process. I want them to kind of feel out. A lot of times I'll leave the room and let them all talk and ask their questions about me, and just get a feel if this person's going to be a great fit for our team. And I think I've also just learned over the years that there are people who do really well in small businesses, and there's people who are really cut out for larger corporate offices. And I try to be very, very honest and open about like what it's like to work here, the good and the bad. And some people really like kind of taking on challenges, and some people have a hard time with that. And so I think trying to feel that out so that people understand that this might not be a great place for them, if that would be frustrating for them, is something I've really learned. But finding the people who love it and fit our team really well. We've got a great team and culture here, and it's exciting to see that kind of grow and change as each new person comes in.
That's great. I want to make sure to acknowledge that we have a lot of students who are participating and are listening in. And what advice, one of those students is asking, what advice do you have for design students? For those students, right, we're inching up on graduation now, folks looking for internships. If students are thinking about interviewing with small firms, what advice do you have for design students in this moment?
I'll jump in and say,
Yeah.
I love, when you're early in your career, small firms are the best thing you can do for your career because you're going to see it all. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you're going to stay there, but you can see the arc of a project and it'll be visible and you'll watch leaders close up. Whereas sometimes at a larger firm or even a mid-sized firm, you're going to be on a project and you might be on just one phase of one project for a whole summer instead of getting kind of a taste. And I think when you're early in your career, get as much eyes on everything so you can learn and see and just, trust your gut, drive your career, but get as much exposure as you can. I think that's the best advice. I think small firms do that. I think when you're learning, small firms are a great place to learn because they know you're learning and they're going to help you. And if they're hiring someone young, that's what they want to do, right? And I would say in your career, only you will drive that. So just trust your gut. And if you're not getting the experience you need, then you need to go to a different firm. But small firms, I think, are wonderful for young designers because they teach you everything. And it's just such a gift.
Yeah, that's great.
I totally second that. And I think that you could take on, it might not be the type of work you thought you were going to go into, or maybe it's not what you ultimately want to do, but you will learn something no matter what. Like there's always something to learn on a job, and you're going to carry that constantly, get those little nuggets throughout your career to make you a well-rounded and a valuable person. And just know that even if it's not what you envisioned it would be, or like the work that you want to do initially, like it will be a great experience and you will learn, and it will make you a more valuable designer. And just know that and like take that in.
Great. Anishka, any advice for students listening?
I think that ultimately you have to be passionate about this industry to be successful and to sustain in the industry, because it will require, whether it's long, ridiculous hours or having to put up with, crazy personalities or whatever. But if you have to really feel very passionate about this, and this is what you want to do in order to make it work and you succeed and grow, and being able to demonstrate that to potential employees or whosoever is very important. So don't ask me how to do that, but you just need to figure out, like, passion is definitely, I think, a prerequisite for your success, and being able to demonstrate that is important.
And last question for this afternoon for each of you. What are you optimistic about? What do you see ahead that you are excited and optimistic about?
I'll go. I was at a job site last week with a restaurant owner, and he said, we can't just throw paint up on the walls and open the doors. Like, people these days want a well-designed restaurant. And I think we've always felt that, obviously, but I was like, just thinking back over the arc of my career, and I started 18 years ago or something, and like just thinking about how much more the general public appreciates a well-designed interior. What Google did to offices and really shook up what we think of offices, and it's just like happened more and more and more. And I just loved hearing him as an owner and as a client, knowing that like we are bringing value because that's going to drive his business. And I just feel like it is happening more and more. And I'm excited for future generations to get that as part of their career, to have more and more clients understanding and appreciating a unique and great
Yeah,
interior.
that's great. Anishka, Betsy, what are you optimistic and excited about?
I see Betsy's like,
See, I think I'm excited about, I agree with that, Sarah. I do think clients have learned, right? Like design matters, but I'm excited for, like, I'll be honest, I think the outcome of COVID and hybrid work, I think, is permanent. And that makes me very happy, because I would say how many designers I've known that have left this industry because balance was not a possibility. And that is a shame. That is part of the issue of why some of us started our firms, is because we couldn't control the balance piece. And I do think hybrid has just taken us to such a different place we've never been. And that provides equity and access to people that are balancing elder care, childcare, geography, whatever that is. And I think that's exciting. I don't know in 10 years what this is going to look like, but I'm really excited that design is going to play a role in that. I think that spaces matter, but I also think place matters and where people are. And maybe it allows more people to work in different ways and in different places, all because of this suffering that we've been through. So I'm optimistic for the opportunities post-COVID.
That's great. That's great.
I think Yeah, I think out of COVID as well, I think this kind of movement towards higher diversity and equity is definite. It looks like it's sustaining from what I can see. And that's huge. I mean, from having clients requesting, we want most of the stuff in our house to be made by women or, you know, artists, female artists, or sorry, or something like that. So basically, we are just excited for the fact that there are more opportunities that are being given to minorities in the industry to allow them to shine, so that potentially they become majority in the industry. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I think that the future of this profession, we can all be optimistic. Just the three of you have brought such change, such innovation, such joy, such authenticity. Your personal credo and ethos are so much a part of the businesses that you have built. And on behalf of the 88% of this profession that are women, thanks so much to the three of you for forging the way forward. And indeed, though your firms might be small, you are indeed mighty. And so Anishka, Sarah, Betsy, thank you so much for joining us today for Collective Design. And thank you so much gratitude to the three of you. And it's a wrap.